Hey everybody, it's Kirsten here. Today I am going to talk about how the pre-professional training experience differs from company life and what that whole experience is like, just for your interest and for those of you who might be transitioning or hoping to transition in the next couple years to a professional dance career. And then also, just a heads up, this will have a second part to this video in which I will be talking about how the college experience, majoring in ballet or dance in college differs from the professional ballet experience. So stay tuned for that. That'll come up in a couple days, and you'll probably see me wearing the exact same sweater because I am planning on filming it right after this. So yes, make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss when that comes. And also hit the little bell button if you are subscribed. That's the recent trend to say this on YouTube because apparently you might not get a notification when I upload a video if you don't hit that bell button. So go ahead and do that, please, if you'd like to see more videos from me. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, so on with the video. Okay, so to summarize what it is like to train pre-professionally in a school, whether this be at a prestigious ballet school where it's kind of like a boarding school situation, you leave home to train, or you are just in a serious program that is local to you, whichever. I'm going to speak from my experience dancing at the Houston Ballet Academy, so that's what I know. This might be different from your experience, but just take it for what it's worth. Okay, so the differences. The thing is with training in a school is that you are trying your very best most of the time, whether you know it or not, to conform to be the kind of dancer they want you to be. Now, this training program might be encouraging you to be an artist, to be an individual, and whatever. And I find, even when this is said, what they are doing by nature, it's not always a bad thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's like they are just turning everybody into the same kind of dancer and you're a robot. But the thing is, the reality is that when you're in training, you are trying to become something that you are not yet. Trying to become a better, more skilled version of yourself. Now, when I say you're becoming a better, more skilled version of yourself, it sounds like you are being more of an individual. And yes, that is ideal, that you develop your artistry and your technique as an individual based off of your natural talents that other dancers might not have, or certain assets that you might have. However, I do find that it does take several years or just, some amount of time getting out of that situation when you are constantly putting yourself out there for correction, for criticism, for improvement, and for someone else's input. It takes time being removed from that situation to really develop as an artist. And this is not a bad thing. I don't think that directors expect people to come out of training programs at 18 years old and be the perfect, most mature artist. No, that's why there are trainee positions, apprentice positions, because those have, there are multiple reasons, mostly fiscal reasons, financial, why those programs have been formed, but a lot of it is also to help these dancers transition from being used to the student life to actually being a professional ballet dancer. So that is a huge difference. Know that in a company, you're going to have a lot more or a lot less input from staff. That's a huge difference. In a school, you are paying tuition, unless you're on full scholarship and you're very lucky, you're paying tuition to receive input from the faculty so that they can shape you into the best version of yourself. And that's a wonderful thing. That has validity. But the way it differs from professional life is that honestly, you get hired because it is assumed you have a certain level of maturity, work ethic, and good self-discipline to be kind of let loose so that they don't have to have their hawk's eye on you all the time. They're focusing on a million other things regarding running the company and putting together productions. They are not interested in correcting you every time you make a mistake or fixing your every habit. Even, well, they're not expecting you to be perfect, but what they are expecting you to do in a company is to have the self-awareness and the discipline to fix those issues on your own for the most part. Now, I'm not saying you will never get a correction in a company. It certainly happens, but much less frequently. So you need to be aware of that, and also just prepare yourself mentally to have that self-awareness and the ability to look in the mirror and understand your strengths and weaknesses, and the ability to set goals to fix your certain bad habits or whatever. Another thing that is really interesting, although I do acknowledge this is very individual based on your experience, where you train and where you actually dance in a company, but it is actually pretty common for you to dance a lot less in a company in your first few years than the amount that you dance in a training program. Now, this is because when you are in the lower ranks of a company, the entry level positions, you're honestly going to be used for a lot of quarter ballet work, which is great. So that means that you will likely get casted pretty consistently, doing like Snow and Flowers and the Nutcracker and, the Corn Sleeping Beauty and, things like that. So you'll probably get casted quite consistently, but the quarter ballet only gets a small portion of the day to rehearse. The main focus is the principal roles and things like that. It's not like the quarter ballet never rehearses, but honestly, you're probably not going to be dancing all day, every single day. And if you are called to other rehearsals, it's probably because you're understudying. So the amount you dance is, I don't know, kind of up to you, depending on if it's the culture in your company to be the understudy doing everything full out in the back or just kind of standing there. It also depends on studio space, but anyway, you get the idea. So, yeah, you're probably not going to be dancing quite as much, because I remember my experience dancing pre-professionally in a training program. It was all day, every single day, 6 days a week. A lot of companies just dance 5 days a week. So don't expect to have the same really, really heavy load unless you are in like an AGMA company, which is a union, one of the major companies where you are expected to be at the studio, maybe 9 or 10 to 6:30 or something like that. For me, I often only end up dancing about 2.5 to 3, 4 hours a day. This changes during theater week, but honestly, I don't dance that much as an apprentice in a company. Now, it's enough for me, like I'm happy, but I definitely have to cross train on the side, and that's another thing that is different. In a training program, oftentimes you are dancing so much, and they actually have cross-training type classes such as Pilates built into your schedule, or yoga classes, or whichever, weight training for men. And so you also wouldn't have time or energy left probably to, I don't know, take a yoga class on your own, go on a run, go on a swim. You're just exhausted. A lot of times you're also trying to graduate high school, so you just really don't have time to do that stuff outside of the program. And that's fine. That's the norm. Now, in a company, like I said, you're dancing less. You are probably going to also have to work another job to support yourself, because this industry doesn't pay very well. However, you will have more time, and also the expectation set on you that you will be cross-training to maintain your strength and keep increasing in strength while you are dancing, your couple hours a day. So that also plays in with the whole discipline, self-accountability sort of thing that will be expected of you in a company. This is kind of an underrated thing, but there is definitely a behavioral difference when you get into a company. It is, I don't want to say it's more relaxed. This is not true. a lot of companies are, very rigid in their expectations, and the dancers are very strict with themselves because they know the expectations are high, pressure is high. However, there is certainly a behavioral difference from a student in a pre-professional program that is always under pressure, getting corrections, always trying to conform. You're wearing just tights and a leotard, probably, a uniform situation. And usually students are a lot more reserved, a lot more kind of stiff, a lot more concerned about what people think. Obviously, you are concerned about what the director thinks when you're hired into a company. That's part of your job, to impress him or her and the artistic staff and the audience that is paid to see you. That is your job, after all. But the thing is, when you are in a school, usually you're not expected to be able to have a conversation with the director or your teachers, or you're not asked questions and actually expected to come up with an articulate answer, as much as I hate that. I'm a firm believer that dancers should be articulate and real people and able and unafraid to speak up whenever there's a question or an issue or anything. Be communicative, y'all, please. But when you get in a company, this is the standard. Of course, there is some level of submissiveness, It's definitely not a good thing to raise your hand every time you're confused about choreography. It's expected that you work this out with your coworkers, and if it's really urgent, you take the time of the director or whoever's running the rehearsal to ask them a question for clarity. But I think what I'm getting at is the people are a lot less rigid in a company. You're seen usually as a lot more of a person. You are an employee. Now, this is if the company is a healthy environment, kind of situation. Some companies don't really treat their dancers like humans, to be honest. I'm lucky to be in a place where they do. And it is normal for the rehearsal process, especially if you are creating new choreography and collaborating with the director or choreographer, it's expected that there is a verbal exchange, that you are relaxed. The dancers in a company are usually confident in themselves. Confidence is absolutely mandatory in a company. I find that a lot of students are not very confident in themselves because, like I said, they're always putting themselves out there for scrutiny. It's not like you aren't that way in a company, but confidence directly impacts your performance. And oftentimes, if you weren't confident in the first place when you were auditioning for the job, you wouldn't have gotten the job. Because confidence really shows, it really pays off. Just being assured of yourself usually leads to more consistency in your performance, better artistry because you have a sense of self and individuality. And you're just generally more pleasant to work with because a lot of directors don't just want to work with good dancers, they want to work with people. So there's a big behavioral difference, and I hope that I explained that correctly. There's also a difference in, obviously, the way you dress. And I've talked about this before. It is really important to change your image, honestly, when you become a professional. In a school, clearly, there's a uniform most of the time. And I've seen dancers enter companies and they still wear like a leotard and tights to class. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? You actually have to fit the image and look like what the rest of the company dancers look like. Now, I'm not saying wear sweatshirts and sweatpants to class all the way through Grand Allegro. No, you don't have to cover up your whole body. But bring that sense of individuality to what you're wearing and stuff because that's the difference. That's what you do. Yeah, so I don't want to expand upon that too much. I've talked about it in other videos, but that's getting more into the advice category, and I'm just trying to objectively point out differences here. I know there's a lot more to say, but I think I'm only going to bring up one more point just so that this video isn't too long, because I have the bad habit of doing that. And the one really important thing to notice is that as a student, you're often asked to do something a very specific way, and you need to execute whatever choreography, steps, anything you're being asked to do to a T, exactly how they show it. and that would be seen as the ideal performance. In a company, especially when you are learning choreography or having choreography set on you, again, there is an expectation of collaboration and an invitation to kind of bring your own ideas. I'm not saying that you choreograph with the director or whoever it is. I'm not saying that. That's not always the case. But there is a fine line of doing what they show, but also realizing the choreographers and directors, whoever is setting something, they often have the expectation that you will take what they do and elevate it, add the very subtle nuances that they can't explain when they're asking you to do a double pate to the side with your arms in an allongé. You can do that. You can do it really stiff, and that's, you're doing what they asked you to do. Or you could understand that maybe the music is very lyrical and do this and hold it and, fall off your leg in a certain artistic direction, something like that. You kind of add a little this, that, and the other to the choreography so that you make it interesting and you make their instructions come to life. So there is a sense of individuality, again, creativity, collaboration, all these things that I've mentioned before. Yeah, this video is getting pretty long, so please, I'm going to finish it there, but ask me any questions you'd like in the comments. I will try to get back to you. I know there's a lot more to talk about, so if there's anything else you're interested to know, please just type it out down below and like this video if you found it beneficial or interesting. I would really appreciate that. So also, if you like my videos, or if you enjoy them, and then hit the like button, more people will be able to see my videos in the suggested videos list. So I'd appreciate just getting the word out a little bit more very much if you do like my channel. But anyway, enough self-promotion aside, I will see you guys in part 2 of this video, where again I will discuss the difference of dancing in college and in a company. So yep, adios guys.